Hi, Dr. Wilson. I'm Carol, Carl's wife. I'm sure he's told you a lot about me. Anyways, this isn't about me. It's not really about me and Carl because though we have some difficulties right now, I think most of our problems just stem from like Carl's problems with himself that have become a lot for both him and me to deal with. And like I literally begged him for over 8 years to talk to someone after spending years and years and years trying to help him myself. And I just want to point out that we did marriage counseling with Dr. Howell, and literally almost everything that Dr. Howell told Carl that he should do were things that I've been telling Carl all along. So anyways, I want my honorary degree. But all jokes aside, I'm very worried about Karl. The past few weeks, he has been the worst that I have ever seen him. He's kind of been swinging this past year, going through periods where like he seems good, like he seemed like real good, like a month or two ago, and then like the last month, not so great. I think that he is really burnt out with work, and I talk to him about that all the time. He's been burnt out with work for a while, but he's also struggling with a lot of other things. And anyways, there's a lot that I would like to share with you because obviously I'm very invested in trying to help Karl with his things and figure out how to support him and his healing and processing and stuff. But I wanted to just go ahead and kind of share like a quick overview of what I have seen pattern-wise over the 24 years that we have been together. I knew that Karl had self-esteem issues when I first met him. Like I immediately knew it, and I just kept thinking that when he achieved X, Y, or Z, that like his confidence would grow and stuff. But it never did. But like in the beginning, like the first, I don't know, 5 or 7 years or so that we were together, his issues didn't seem that bad, and I had my own issues and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think I realized just how eccentric he was, because I'm also eccentric. I remember something that's always stood out to me is I had several people come up to me at times and tell me that, oh, I used to think Karl was an asshole. But then I realized that's just how he is, and I love him. And I didn't know what people meant at the time. But now I realize that they were basically, I mean, this was before the Big Bang Theory, that Karl is like a Sheldon type. And I just didn't realize it because Karl and I often feel like we're two sides of the same brain. Like I'm more of the creative, flexible one, and Karl's, like the analytical, like engineer one. We have, enough common ground, but we pick up for each other in other areas. And so a few of the things is first, like, I joked for the longest time, like, I have all the social skills and Karl doesn't have any. And he really doesn't seem to have hardly any. I mean, like he's done okay a little bit lately, but every friend that is in our life, except for he now has a few work friends after all these years, every friend that's in our life is because I brought them in and like kept them in and encouraged Karl to keep up with them. But he doesn't really like reach out to people or talk to people, despite me encouraging him to, which is concerning. He struggles with communication. He struggles with his self-esteem. He is one of the most intelligent people on the freaking planet and so freaking talented, but he always feels like it's not good enough and he's a failure and stuff, despite me and many others building him up and complimenting him and reminding him of stuff. Like it's just like this irrational thing. Like he just won't, like, and there are a lot of things that he retreats within. He has told me so many times that he is afraid to say the wrong thing, so he doesn't say anything at all. Like in the past, a lot of times he would tell me that he's afraid of making me mad, despite a long history of I stay mad for like 2 minutes at the most because I'm basically Dory and I don't remember things. Also, I just don't believe in wasting time staying mad. Like I'm very much, if we have an issue, let's just talk about it, work through it, and then get over it, like because Carl and I, we never really had any like major fights or anything until after he started working at Honda. And it was really when he started working at Honda and we bought our money pit house. And I don't know which of those things was the big thing, that I felt like Carl checked out on me. And one of my other theories is I really think that he should be tested for autism. I mean, we think everybody's on the spectrum, but like I think Carl's way more on the spectrum than I originally suspected. And I feel really silly for not realizing it. I think I just got him so well. But not only does he have a history of communication issues, he has a history of having problems regulating his emotions and expressing himself. He does not understand tone of voice. It causes so many problems. He does not know how to regulate his emotions. When he gets upset, it doesn't matter where we're at. I'm a big believer in not making other people uncomfortable and having public fights and stuff. But if Karl gets upset, he loses it. Like he bottles everything up. And then when the right trigger happens, he just explodes. And then he punishes himself, because I mean, he'll regret it, of course, but the other thing is like in our relationship, I always knew that like I was his son and brought like, joy. Like we've had a very codependent relationship for a long time, which I mean, I think has probably gone both ways, but more so Karl's more dependent on me for his happiness. Like I just rely on him to like help me with math stuff because my brain doesn't work that way. But, and, some other stuff, but we're partners. So, that's normal. But, at first it was flattering, but then after years and years and years, like I'm exhausted. And that is one of the problems that we're having now is that my battery is depleted. I have tried for so long to help him and I still want to help him, but like right now I'm in self-preservation mode. I've got to take care of myself and protect my energy so that I can recover in order to help him more, because I just don't have the energy for it anymore. But also it's just not healthy. It's not healthy for him to be so dependent on me for his happiness. I keep, he's always made me his number one, which is super sweet, but I keep telling him that he needs to be his number one. I'll be his number two, but he needs to be his number one. He needs to find and create his own joy instead of, relying on me, instead of me being the source of his joy. Just all of that kind of stuff. And then a few other quick things I've noticed. He has a pattern. I've seen it enough now to know it. But whenever he does mess up, it's not often that until the last few years that I got really upset about stuff. I have short-term memory issues, and also I just, life's too short to waste being upset about things. But the few times that he has really upset me, as soon as he realizes he's really upset me, instead of being proactive and comforting me, he spirals inwards into like a pit of self-loathing, and talks about, how he's such a loser and pathetic and shouldn't exist. And, and then what ends up happening is I end up comforting him and trying to fish him up out of that pit because he's just freaking sinking in it. And, it kind of, it does suck, that he spirals inwards like that. And that instead of my hurts being addressed and actually like resolved or whatever, that my thing always gets pushed aside because he feels like such a loser that he goes into that hole and I have to fish him out of it. And that's really exhausting, and it's also just not fair. I talk to him all the time about, being proactive about things, and, he just has a lot of problems with paralysis. And I've known that he's so dependent on me in certain areas, but like with us not living together all the time lately, like he came up to Ohio. When I got up to Ohio, he had taken a ton of boxes of stuff up there, and he hadn't unpacked hardly anything. It was all just that the house was crazy. I know when I had talked to him on the phone, like there were days where he was just zoning out on the sofa, like he's obviously severely depressed, and has a lot of anxiety, and I've been aware of that for a while, but I didn't. This is the worst that I've ever seen it. And I knew that Karl had serious issues, but I didn't realize how serious they were. And it wasn't until this past year that I became aware of how deep his religious stuff had messed with him, because he never really talked about it. He stopped going to church before I met him. I knew that he had issues about it, but he never really, like, it's hard to fish information out of him, and a lot of times he'll just say he doesn't know. He told me that you diagnosed him with like alexithymia, and that makes a lot of sense. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten really frustrated with him because I'll ask him how he feels about something or what he enjoyed, and he just can't tell me. And then the other thing that's driving me crazy is when we're together, he asked me to make literally every decision, and I am wore out. Like, and I've been here lately just wondering, like, just how much of a Sheldon is he? Because I mean, he's a super intelligent person, but when it comes to being creative or flexible or just some of these practical, like, common sense things, he just has some block and can't do it. And there are times when he functions fine, but I think right now, of him being so stressed and stuff, it's just gotten worse. So anyways, I look forward to meeting you in person at some point in the future. I'll probably try and make you like a few short videos between now and then, since it will be a while. But I would really like to work together with you to help support Karl in whatever way, your professional advice to understand what the hell is going on with him. Oh, and the other big thing is that he will sometimes he talks about there's a demon inside of him, and sometimes it's like a switch flips and he becomes a different person. Like, we're very close and we support one another, but there have been, it doesn't happen all the time, but we have a pattern of it. I think it happens more than I realize. I know Karl loves me and supports me and is proud of me, but like, we'd be out in public, like an art show, and someone would compliment me or something, and then Karl would just start putting me down in front of them, like maybe like kind of like if someone was jealous and they're like, oh yeah, but she sucks at this, blah, 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 blah. I won't say anything about it in front of people, but then I'll step out and be like, what the hell was this, Karl? And Karl will always panic and be like, I don't know why I said that. I don't know why I did that. So, and that's very concerning, because he won't know why he did something. He just will do these things. Or like last year, there've been times where he did things and he doesn't remember. It's like he blacks out and stuff. And he did have, like, supposedly it was resolved and it was some sort of chemical thing. But the first few years I met him, there was, at some point in that time, there was a period where he had some sort of chemical imbalance, and he'd tell me that he was coming over to visit, and I would walk outside to check and wait for him, and he'd be hanging out of the car like unconscious, or he'd be crumpled in the street. And finally, the yard, and finally it kind of culminated with he was walking around downtown Jacksonville one day with amnesia, and supposedly was taken to the hospital and given some sort of shot or medication or something that helped. So there's a lot of strange things that have happened, and like, I'm a problem solver. It doesn't matter what kind of problem it is. Like, I've been doing a lot of self-work on myself for a long time. I think I've done a damn good job. And I've been trying to help Karl the best that I can, and I just, like, I'm exhausted. But I'm still hanging in here, and I want to help support him. But he has communication challenges. He has memory challenges. He has been spacing out so much lately. So I know, and that's one of the other things. It's one of the other reasons I'd really like him to get tested for autism in adults, is that he relies on me for so much. And now that we've been spending more time apart, I'm really seeing, like, just how kind of like dependent that he's been on me. And it's like, at first I thought it was just kind of like a habit thing, but now I feel like it's like some sort of like deeper emotional thing. And, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I mean, I think it's a pretty good guess. I was reading that like alexithymia, for instance, is often linked to autism. And I know we've read stuff before, like ADHD is also linked to that. And, but when we were growing up, people had a very particular idea of what autism looked like and that kind of stuff. And if there's something else, I'd love to hear what your best guess is. But there's definitely something more than just anxiety and depression going on. And he's in a pretty bad state right now. So I'll wrap it up there. I'm sorry this was so long, but I'm hoping that it will be helpful for you to hear kind of an overview of like the patterns and the major like issues that we have experienced over the last couple of decades, because it's not like any of this stuff is new. Like there's a history and there's definitely a clear pattern of things after this long of stuff. So anyways, I look forward to meeting you at some point in the future, and please help me help my husband.